Hello and welcome to The Punter, the show dedicated to the wonderful and exciting world of sports betting. I'm Russ Wiseman, and today joining me for a look ahead at the weekend action, we've got the two resident pundits here on Sports Tonight Live. It is, of course, Flash, Gordon Watson and Chris Graham. Boys, before we get stuck into this weekend action, Flash, I've got to tell you, you're an ex-Southampton man. Nigel Adkins is gone. It looks like a bizarre decision from the outside. He certainly wasn't at the top of the list for the next manager to go market. What do you make of this?
Oh, he's dead man walking. I mean, it was one of them last night. I broke the story on Twitter, and it was a case of, I don't want to press send. I do not want this going out there. I was gutted to let people know, and the dog's abuse I took for about 3 or 4 hours was just unbelievable. But he's ripped the heart. The chairman has ripped the heart out of the Saints fans because everything was going so well.
Well, from my point of view, it certainly looked a good decision 6 weeks ago. But Chris, I mean, to make the decision today, when this guy's actually turned things around quite nicely.
In some ways it's shocking, but in other ways I wasn't really that surprised. I mean, I think he's never really fancied Adkins, has he? I think he's been waiting for an opportunity for the whole of the season just to get rid of him, press the eject button. We sat here on New Year's Eve. And
congratulations, by the way.
Exactly. I had
one of his bets of the year.
One of my bets of the year was Nigel Adkins to leave Southampton at some point in 2013 at odds of 6-4. That was a cracking bet. We both agreed on that, and it's coming a lot sooner than expected, but it's coming.
Always nice to collect early, Chris, isn't it? Well, let's start off with the weekend action then. Plenty to get stuck into on this edition of The Punter, and it's Liverpool versus Norwich. Obviously, boys, a very key game, this one. Liverpool at the moment look as though they've turned things around slightly. Norwich on a desperate run, aren't they? And as you can see there from the match odds with Blue Square, unfortunately our good friend Alan Alga is stuck in the snow today, but his firm there, 3-1 on Liverpool, 8-1 against Norwich. The draw, 4-1. It looks an obvious home win, Flash, but one of the points we always make here on The Punter is that Liverpool always tend to be short odds, don't they? How do you see this one?
I think it comes down to what personnel's playing. I mean, I've got a theory. Joe Allen doesn't play in midfield. Gerrard and Lever play in midfield. Then the 1-3 will probably look good odds come 5 o'clock. When Joe Allen plays, then it's going to be 0-0 for long periods. So 1-3 is not good, and they'll trade bigger at some stage of the game. The last 2 games when Joe Allen's not played, they've had 53 shots on goal and 19 on target, scored 7, let in none. So again, personnel is, if you have a look at it, if it's Gerrard, Lever and maybe a Shelby, then Liverpool good. Seems
fair enough. And Chris, I mean, we talk about Liverpool a lot, don't we? Over bet, but actually they're not on a bad little run of form here. Won 3 out of the last 4 at Anfield to 0. Is that the way you see it? It looks an obvious call, doesn't it, Liverpool? But 3's on. It will be part of many punters' accas this weekend.
You're right, it's a good start, Ross. If you take out the Aston Villa game in mid-December, that shocking defeat, they've actually just conceded 1 goal in the last 7 home games. So you're right, very, very impressive one. But still, every week they're too short. I don't get it anymore. Why they're so short? The 1-3 here. People talk about the Asian markets every single week. Is that the case? It's unbelievable. For me, a team at Liverpool at the moment, you know, a team in between 6th and 10th, let's just say, should be around 1-2 to beat, maybe 49 at a push to beat Norwich, but there's 3 on here. It's no price at all. Can I make a case for Norwich? I can't really, to be honest. Liverpool got a great record against Norwich. I think the 1990s was the last time Norwich beat them. And Liverpool unbeaten in 7 against the Canaries. Suarez as well. I think he scored 6 in his last 2 against Norwich. So I expect Liverpool to win, but I ain't touching that price.
Yeah, and as you said, Suarez with a couple of hat-tricks there in his last 2 games against Norwich as well. Boys, let's look at the overs and unders in this one, because clearly goals could be on the horizon. Although Norwich don't get beat by many. When they get beat, they tend to get beat by 1. But any thoughts on the overs and unders here, Flash? Obviously, the overs at Anfield, people tend to think they'll score plenty of goals, 9-20 there with my firm Sporting Bet. The unders 8-5. That's the universal market, but you may even look at the 3.5 market.
That's the only market I was looking at. I was thinking over 3.5 at 5-4. That brings in obviously 3-1 and 4-0. Again, it comes down to the personnel, but I would definitely. I think a safe bet is over 2.5 and over 3.5 for probably your stake of your over 2.5. And if you get the 4, then you've double winnings.
Fair call, Chris. Any thoughts?
I have to go with the value proposition here. I have to make a case for something. So under 2.5. Now Liverpool have limped past weak opponents at Anfield this season. Southampton and Reading spring to mind. A couple of 1-0 wins there. If that would be replicated here, obviously you get paid out in under 2.5 at 8-5. But to be fair, they're scoring more goals than they were in the autumn. Liverpool a bit more prolific, as we saw against Fulham and West Ham. But if I'm making a case under 2.5, I would think back to those games against Reading and Southampton to perhaps ignite a bit of passion for that 8-5.
The other one is they say that Sturridge and Suarez might play up front together. in which case you've got double trouble. Because Suarez, I mean, he loves playing against Norwich. He's got 2 hat-tricks, and one of them was away from home. So for me, I can see this being 4 or 5.
Good call by you there, Flash. I'm with you, actually, Chris, on this one. I think the other 2.5 might be the value play. Let's look at Man City versus Fulham now. City, for me, boys, starting to turn this thing around, slightly looking a powerful team again. Look at these match odds here, boys. 2-9 at the moment, City. Very, very short lead. Fulham, 12-1. But the old adage usually pays, doesn't it, with Fulham? You back them at home, you lay them away, and it tends to pay dividends. And Martin Jol at the moment, at the top of the next manager to go markets. Flash, it's an obvious call City again here, but is there any maybe exotic bets we can look at here to maybe cop a few?
Well, I mean, you have to worry about Man City because the spine of their team is not really firing. Again, Aguero's injured, Yaya's gone away. Company, obviously, he got sent off last week. I mean, it has been rescinded, but they haven't been keeping clean sheets. 10 against 10-man Arsenal, yes, last week, but apart from that. So I think that they might limp past this, and I'll be more interested in the overs and unders, but I think Fulham will just try and keep the goals down. Yeah,
it's a good shout. Let's look at the overs and unders, Chris, and see maybe where you can pinpoint a little bit of value here. It's an interesting game for me because, as I said, I think City are now starting to fire up, starting to show their strong side.
I agree with you, Ross, and I take the opposite view, Liverpool, Norwich. I actually think City could hose up here. With a nice scoreline. These sides have played each other 17 times in the Premier League. Man City have scored in all 17 games, Fulham in 16. So I'm expecting goals, definitely. Fulham, I think, 8th in the scorers table as well. So they've been racking the goals in this season. I like over 3.5 here at 5-2. Fulham have scored in 6 of the last 7 games. Like I said, the 8th highest scorers in the Premier League, above the likes of West Brom, and much higher on the table. City got 4 against Norwich recently, 3 against Stoke. I like goals in this game, over 3.5 for me.
Chris, this is a dangerous precedent. I agree with you again on that one. I think there'll be plenty of goals there at Man City. Let's look at Newcastle versus Reading now. Now, for me, boys, both of these teams massively unreliable. Time form squiggle, to put horse racing adage next to both of these sides. Newcastle with only 2 wins from 17. Reading, I believe, only 2 points from 11 away. So 11 games away. It's a desperately difficult game for Newcastle because they simply aren't winning any games. But Reading, a team, even though they're confident after that remarkable fight back against West Brom, could you really back them away at 15-4, Flash?
No, but you couldn't bet Newcastle at home at odds on neither. I don't think there'll be any control in this game. I think this will be an end-to-end basketball match, and that will play straight into Reading's hands. They love to play with 2 wingers with out-and-out pace. And the thing is now, there's no Demba Ba. So where are the goals obviously going to come from? There's no playmaker in Newcastle's side. So for me, I've got to go with the draw. And I think it'll be a scoring draw as well. I think this will be to and fro-in.
That's not a bad shout, actually, Chris. I think this could be a scoring draw, simply because of the lack of confidence with Newcastle at the moment. I mean, you couldn't back them rotten money at the moment, could you, really?
Absolutely, I agree with you guys. It's got to be a draw for me here. I think Brian McDermott will be right up for this. You know, Reading, 3 wins in the last 4 in all competitions. That wonderful performance, or that awful performance last Saturday, they came away with a 3-2 win, despite playing terribly for 80 minutes. That has got to breed a lot of confidence in the dressing room. And McDermott will be looking at this weak puppy in Newcastle and think, we can take them, we can have them here, definitely. And I think they'll be the team who'll be pumping the chest at the start of the game. I still think that I can't back them at that price. The value for me has to be the draw.
Let's have a peek at the overs and unders as well, Flash, here. I mean, Reading, obviously, they've been banging in goals. They did 3 in a very short space of time against the Baggies last week. The overs is odds on. Again, I'd be slightly reluctant to play that myself, and as a bookmaker, I certainly wouldn't be stepping in. But any thoughts on those markets there?
Well, I mean, I think you'd have a look at the over 3.5, because then obviously that brings in a 3-1 win for one of them, but obviously the 2-2s there. Reading have been involved in 2 free frees and a 3-2. So for me, Reading love scoring goals, and they got their goals last week after playing 4-5-1 for 80 minutes, reverted back to their 4-4-2. And all of a sudden, everything just came back to them. They're a real team with good momentum. I don't see any scary signs for Reading here, so they'll be fearless.
Yeah, interesting. Chris, final call on that game?
Unders for me here. Newcastle just 1 goal in 3 post-Ba games. He's gone, and I think Newcastle's goals have gone with him as well. And, you know, Reading have gone through large chunks of the season unable really to find the net, and I think under 2.5 here at 11-10 is definitely the appealing price at that 2.5 bracket.
Okay, interesting calls by the boys on that game. And now let's finally look in part 1 at Swansea versus Stoke. Stoke, boys, I've got to say, a team who caused me untold carnage last week. I had an obscene bet on them to beat Chelsea. That was 4-0 to Chelsea. So this one's a tricky call for me, Flash, because Swansea, as we know now, are clearly a cup side. They are focusing all their resources on that. they've really held things together quite nicely, though, haven't they? 11-10 against Stoke, slightly less than Fulham. Better at home than they are away, but I wouldn't be writing Tony Pulis's men off to come back and fight back strong here at 5-2.
No, there's two ways of looking at this game. First of all, Swansea have got the second leg against Chelsea midweek, so they'll probably look after themselves. Secondly, you look at Stoke, they'll go from back to front. They won't want to play and get involved in a football match with Swansea. I can't have Swansea, but I can't have all my confidence on Stoke. So again, I know it's 9-4 is a little bit shorter than maybe the 5-2 that we normally see for a draw, but I think that's for a reason. I think this will be a draw, and I think it'll be a very low-scoring one.
And I tend to agree on that. I think the draw is a good call in this game because both sides aren't showing enough at the moment to really be backable. Chris, on the overs and unders in this game, and maybe a slight view on the game. Any thoughts at all? Because I mean, again, I tend to think this has got to be a tight look to it. I can't see Stoke wanting to concede goals after the debacle last week.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd go as far as the under 2.5 my bet of the weekend.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
I really feel strongly about it. There's negatives for both sides. Swansea, consecutive blanks, 2 games in a row without scoring. That's the first time that's happened since a wee slump in September. That tells me everything I need to know. That is, they're concentrating all on next week. Probably one of the biggest game in the club's history. Stoke, awful away from home, just 1 win away from home this season, and you know they've had a traumatic month. I think it was 1 win in the last 6. We were praising them to high heavens this time last month, but it's all gone wrong for Stoke a little bit for me. I can see this being 0-0. I really can, and I think under 2.5, 13-20. All right, you won't become a millionaire backing it, but I think it's a solid bet.
And under 1.5 would obviously
exactly.
be right up there as well.
Yeah.
Terrific stuff, boys. Well, there's some interesting bargains there from the boys on the first set of games for Saturday. Join us after the break here on the Punter, where we'll look at the rest of Saturday's action. And welcome back to part 2 of The Punter. I'm Russ Wiseman, joined by the resident guests here, the quality pundits that are, of course, Flash Gordon-Watson and Chrissy Graham. Now, boys, let's look ahead of 3 more games for Saturday now. Key fixtures, these. And 2 old-school managers we'll start off with here. It's, of course, Harry Redknapp versus Sam Allardyce. West Ham at home to QPR. Lots at stake here, boys, because West Ham, even though they're starting to show signs of flailing away, it's all about QPR at the moment. And surely, Flash, they'll be buoyed by that great result in midweek against West Brom. That's a terrific result for them. And they've signed some players as well. Is this the time maybe that QPR can get themselves out of trouble?
Oh, without a doubt. I don't think they'll go down, because I think they've kept 4 out of the last 6 clean sheets. Now, West Ham, for me, they're a bit of a dodge side, and I don't see Queen's Park Rangers getting beat. But do I think that they've got enough to go and win the game? I think this is a really, really tough game. Again, I'd edge towards a draw or Queen's Park Rangers, but I definitely wouldn't go West Ham win.
Yeah, so we look at the odds here then, boys. Even money for West Ham, 9 for the draw, 14-5 Queen's Park Rangers. I guess most punters, Chris, will try and play the safe way here, West Ham evens, but I can think of better ways of doubling my money than backing the Hammers in a game like this. Any thoughts yourself?
I'd like West Ham to win, but I don't think they will. Although I think people are being a bit nasty towards them. When I looked at the table, they're up in 11th at the moment. They played well against Norwich recently, beat them. I think they come out the FA Cup tie with Man United with lots of credit. You know, they should have probably beaten them in the first game and then played quite well on Wednesday, albeit against an under-strength Manchester United side. But I don't think it's totally doom and gloom at Upton Park at the moment. Queen's Park Rangers, where do you start? I mean, you know, just they got their first away win in 13 months last time out, improving, but you know they're trying everything, every trick in the book to stay in this league, and it's sometimes it's horrible to watch. It really is. I think to cut it short, I think a draw for me here. I mean, the amount of money I've lost in QPR backing them away this season, I'm not getting involved. I can't take West Ham even, so the draw for me.
Well, Flash, what do you think of QPR though with these new signings? Harry obviously tweaking things, trying to find the right recipe really to get themselves out of trouble. How do you see this really going for them as the season progresses? I mean, they need to get something from games.
They've got to show spirit, and you can't buy that. I mean, that's something that's going to have to be gained, and a lot of the beliefs obviously going to come from the manager. Yes, we know that Remy is going to come in, but when I look at this game, I'm just wondering if I've maybe been a bit harsh to West Ham, because they like to get the ball into the box, and the one place that QPR don't want the ball is in their box, because they haven't gone and bought major defenders. So, I mean, I think Chrissy Graham, 5'1", You probably jumped taller. He jumped taller than most of them centre halves.
No,
So I really am worried about going anywhere near this game. So it's got to be low scoring draw for me.
It's a little bit harsh that going, Chris. In fairness,
5-9.
Are you 5-2?
And he's got spring in his legs as well. But low at Remy. Let's look at Remy for start.
Yeah,
I mean, is he going to play Remy from the start? Bring him on as a super sub? Is that the kind of thing you do with a player of this value? You've got to put him on the pitch, surely.
Yeah, impact player would probably be. I'd say he starts his 90 minutes when he's at home. Definitely, because he gets a crowd going as well. I think he's in case of fire, break glass. I think it's really emergency calls only. So it's a tough game. I don't want to be West Ham, but I can't see QPR getting enough. So you've got to go draw. I
guess the way to look at it, Chris, is that we need to inspect team lineups before we really start wading in for this game.
Absolutely, I think that's crucial for a number of games this weekend, and this one more than any other. QPR aren't scoring many goals either. You know, I think they would be 13th would be in the league if the league started when Harry Redknapp took over. It took a while for them to kick in, and he's bringing in. He's trying to get players like Jan Villa, who his attitude it's not great. He's not the kind of player you want fighting for relegation. Arsene Wenger dodged him because of his dodgy attitude recently. So you know, QPR. Just some of the things that are going on. It's just
well, they're not dead and buried yet. But let's look at the overs and unders in this game. I think we're probably going to be unanimous because I tend to agree with you boys. I don't see this being a goal glut at all. And the universal market there, 10 to 11, 4 to 5, the unders and overs flash. I mean, coin flip basically. I mean, should we be probably veering more towards the side of the unders here?
Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, that there is probably the best value I've seen out of any game we've spoken about. Maybe, I mean, you look at Swansea and Stoke earlier. Everyone's going to say 0-0, but I think this one, you say like a coin flip, under 2.5 I thought would be a lot stingier than that. So for me, it's definitely under 2.5.
Chrissy?
QPR scored just 2 in the last 5 games. West Ham don't score many away from home. I know this is at home, but it's another telltale sign for me that under 2.5 at 4 to 5 has to be backed.
Fair enough, boys. Interesting calls there on that game. Wigan versus Sunderland is our next port of call. I mean, both of these sides at the moment, difficult to call from my point of view. Sunderland, though, on the back of a very good performance last week against West Ham. But this Wigan team, boys, even at home, they are difficult to call. I mean, what you tend to see from Roberto Martinez's men is a good late-season performance, but they need to acquire some points now. Now, Flash, how do you see this one? Look at the match odds here, 23 to 20 Wigan, 9 to 4 Sunderland away, which is a price that not many punters will be wanting to take because, again, their best performances are at the Stadium of Light. The draw, 12 to 5, which unfortunately for me, the stalemate is the obvious pick.
No, I'm Wigan here. I think Wigan will win. I think they've got too much power. I mean, Sunderland, they're so reliant on the likes of Fletcher being up front, or an absolute weldy from a Johnson or a Gardner. You can't rely on them. It's got to be normal pattern of play. And for me, I have to be with Wigan.
I think we'll banish Flash to Skype if he keeps disagreeing like this. To tell you the truth, Chris, I think it'll be a stalemate. But I do think that Wigan's an interesting call for me because I can't rely on this short odds really.
It's appalling odds. I could never, ever back Wigan at 23 to 20. No chance. We disagree at last, Flash. I ain't having Wigan in this game whatsoever. They're the 19th in the home table. They scored just 2 home goals in the last four home games. Sunderland, on the other hand, seem to be turning a wee corner here since that win against Reading in mid-December. Scrub off the Liverpool shambles in January the 2nd and actually doing pretty good, competitive against the Manchester clubs. Obviously beat Man City and the results are improving. So I think, 12 to 5 the draw, 94 Sunderland. I guess probably the value lies with the draw at 12 to 5, but ain't no way I'm backing that 23 to 20 for Wigan. No thank you.
Yeah, so one quick point though, Flash. I mean, why so strong on Wigan here? I mean, is it just the lack of
strong athletes in wide areas, and the one thing I didn't like is 1v1 matchups with the Sunderland fullbacks. I really don't like them. I don't think they get enough protection from maybe Sessegnon on one side, Larson from the other. So for me, I definitely want to be with Wigan, and this is the time of year that they start getting their head of steam up. And
in fairness to punters, we should point out that Flash reads the game pretty much as well as anybody. Let's look at the overs and unders in this one, boys. Again, the overs and unders evens the over 8 to 11 under. I don't really see the 3.5 really coming into play here. What about the 1.5 market here, Chrissy? Do you think we could maybe play on that 2 to 7 over, 23 to 10 under?
If I was having a bet in this market, it probably would be under 1.5 at 23 to 10. Wigan not prolific scorers at all at home. Sunderland went through a barren run this season, just unable to score goals. I can see this game being very tight, very unattractive, and I think probably on this specific market, the 23 to 10 under 1.5 appeals to me.
And Flash, your brief thoughts on the overs and unders in this one?
2-0 Wigan, so I've got to go under 2.5. So 8-11, I think your boys have got it right.
Perfect. So Flash has told us exactly what's going to happen there at the DW. Now let's look at the final game in this part, the final Saturday game. It is actually the game that I've got my biggest view in this weekend. It is West Brom at home to Aston Villa. Aston Villa, a team who are just free-falling now, boys. It's not looking good for them at all. Look at the odds here, 4-6 with Blue Square, 11-4 the draw, away 4-1. It is almost sort of a local derby, this, isn't it? But very good chance, I think, here, Flash, for Steve Clarke's men to put a real nail in Paul Lambert's coffin. I can't believe he's not top of the next manager to go market, but I think West Brom are good things here. How do you see it?
More than good things. I cannot have Aston Villa on my mind. I've seen them at close quarters, obviously, with playing Bradford, and I see them devoid of ideas, spirit. They're very, very reliant on a 20-year-old in Benteke. But Agbonlaho's gone backwards for me. I just do not see any spark in the Aston Villa ranks. So for me, 4-6, it could be 2-5, and you'd still say that looks value. Yeah,
Chris, I think this could get nasty for Villa, because I think West Brom, even though they've shown signs of frailty lately, I still think they're the better team. Man for man, if you put the two teams together, they are the better unit. Is that the way you see it?
I would completely agree with that. Absolutely, I think West Brom, despite a wee dodgy patch, 6 defeats in the last 9 actually, and their home form has crumbled a little bit, but. I think the key for me is if Ron Vlaar plays. I think he could save Aston Villa from relegation, Ron Vlaar, because they need a strong, experienced player at the back, and he might start tomorrow. I'll be keeping an eye on that before I have a bet in this specific game. But you're right, Villa in all sorts of turmoil at the moment. And it's a mess, and I really hope they survive, because I love Lambert, I love his philosophy here, but at the moment it's just too much too soon, and it's costing them. And I think West Brom, who, you know, 4-6 for a team who have been wonderful at home this season. I think they're still in the top 5 in the home standings this season, 2-0 up last week, of course, and I really like West Brom. I love the work ethic, I love the players, and I have to back them here.
Well, I tend to agree with that, Flash, but just a word on Paul Lambert. Obviously, things are going badly. I thought he had a resigned look on his face last week. He looked like a guy who was pretty much beaten at the game. I mean, we've seen Nigel Adkins go today, as we almost already spoke about, but do you see this being the end of the road for Lambert, nearly?
No, I don't. I think he'll see out the whole season, because I think that the people upstairs have told him, they've given him like a memorandum of what they want done, that you've got to get rid of all the big earners, all the big wages, and then we'll give it back to you in the summer, and you can bring in your own fresh faces. They're kids. The back 6, if Ron Vlaar doesn't play, the back 6, if there's a heavy wind, they could blow the players off the pitch. They are that lightweight, and that's why I see Blackburn winning this in midfield. And if you have Lukaku and Long up front, that they will help themselves. Yeah,
we'll make sure you break the news if Lambert does go. We want to hear that one first. But let's look at these overs and unders, boys, here. Like I say, I'm all over West Brom myself. I do think they're the best play on the coupon this weekend. 4-5 the over, 10-11 the under. You've got to believe, though, haven't you, Chris, that Lambert will try and keep this tight. I believe that. Yeah. I think this could be an in-play game, this one, because they simply cannot afford to concede early on. I think maybe get to half an hour before I start piling into West Brom here.
I mean, despite that awful run at Christmas where they got destroyed on 2 or 3 occasions, Aston Villa were actually keeping it quite tight in November and the first half of December. So I think there's still enough reason for me to like the unders here, under 2.5. I think, you know, and especially if Ron Vlaar comes back, definitely. And West Brom up on the top half of the table, in the real table, but actually in the bottom half when it comes to goals scored. So they're not quite as prolific as in terms of goals as a position in the table suggests. So for me, it has to be under 2.5 here at 10-11.
Very quick view from you, Flash, on these.
Yeah, over 2.5, over 3.5, and the big thing for me is Aston Villa have to be at the races for Tuesday night against Bradford. 3-1 down. Bradford scored 3, could have scored 6. West Brom had scored 6 against Bradford. And that's a huge call by Flash, actually, looking ahead at that Bradford game. That surely is the biggest game of their season. That's part 2 done with on the punter. In part 3, we'll be looking ahead at what is genuinely a Super Sunday. 3 great fixtures to look forward to. Join us after this break. Thanks for coming back to us here at the Punter. I'm Russ Wiseman, and I'm joined here by my guests here, Chris Graham and Flash Gordon-Watson. Now, boys, before the break I mentioned the Super Sunday, 3 fantastic fixtures. I got carried away myself. Frankly, it's not that good, is it? It's only 2 games. We've got Southampton. I will take one on Saturday and we'll play it again on Sunday.
We've got Southampton, Everton to look forward to a little bit later in the show on Monday night. But this is a genuinely Super Sunday, isn't it? 2 fabulous games. Absolutely, really something to look forward to here. Chelsea at home to Arsenal. We'll look at that one first, and then Spurs and Manchester United. But Chelsea and Arsenal here. I mean, the markets in this game, I think, are fascinating because Chelsea, big odds-on favourites, everybody favouring them. Can you really trust a side, though, who frankly just don't do the business at Stamford Bridge? Tremendous away from the bridge, but they're just simply unreliable. Again, these two sides qualify as unreliable, don't they?
More than unreliable. I was at Stamford Bridge the other night, obviously with my Southampton hat on, and Chelsea were not at it from the moment dot. As soon as that whistle went, you could sense straight away. I was saying to Chrissy Graham, if you was a lion, they looked like 11 injured zebra. Which one was you going to pick? They really were that bad. And Southampton 2-2, everyone says it's a great point. They missed a real opportunity because a lot of the Chelsea people are saying it's probably the worst performance in years. Will they put their back-to-back performances? Although they've not been firing people away at Stamford Bridge. But can you then trust Arsenal to go and beat them? I favour Arsenal over Chelsea if Chelsea turn up the other day, like they did the other day.
Let's take a look at these match odds here, Flash. Here with Blue Square, 3-4 the home win, 11-4 the draw. Arsenal 100-30. Chrissy, it's also a game that's produced lots of goals over the years, isn't it? I mean, there was a 5-3 game in this fixture last time around. I mean, the problem with this, surely, though, is can you really back Chelsea odds on? But then again, would you really want to be steamroller into Arsenal? Very, very suspicious teams at the moment, aren't they? And they're not doing punters any favours at all.
Exactly. There's negatives of both sides, but I'm willing to side with Chelsea with probably one of my best bets of the weekend. Yeah, absolutely. Because they beat Stoke 4-0. Let's just don't forget that. They beat Stoke 4-0 at Britannia last week. Phenomenal performance. The home form is worrying, and you have to conclude it must be to do with the negativity around Benitez at the moment. This, though, is the first time they've played a big side since Benitez has arrived. Obviously, apart from the Man City game when he first arrived. This is the fans really need to get behind them here. And I think they will. And I just think Chelsea are just a class apart for Arsenal. I really do. I think there's a golfing class here, and Arsenal could never win 4-0 at Stoke. And I just think this is a big day for Chelsea on Sunday.
And Flash, John Terry potentially coming back for this game, that'll be a big boost for Chelsea. But I mean, Chris is a shrewd judge and a stat master in his own right. But do you really want to be stepping into back a team odds on who didn't do the business at 5-1 on against Southampton midweek?
Absolutely not. I favour Arsenal in this game. I think if I put 11 players up against 11 and I see who's going to win the most battles, then I think that what I've seen of Chelsea at home, not away, not counter-attacking, then I see Arsenal coming out on top. And there'll be plenty of people interested in the 100-30. I think it could well be an in-play game as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with you on that one, boys. I mean, certainly when you look at the match odds here, I think the draw has been appealing to a few punters in the last couple of days. I think the 1-1 draw, actually, the scoreline, I checked a few of the bets on the field book this morning. It looked as though that could be interesting. But let's look at the overs and unders in this game as well. Fascinating game because surely the overs is the play here, isn't it, boys? Because look at the way this fixture's been played lately. Mistakes in both sides. I know Terry could be back, Flash, but that's hardly going to shore up a defence that looks as though it wants to ship goals. And we know now when these top sides play against each other, that sort of caution goes to the wall, doesn't it? It doesn't happen at all.
No, and you've got to look at goals because neither of them keep clean sheets. If John Terry's going to play, he's going to have to play deep. Then that means that Demba Ba's going to be isolated. Theo Walcott against John Terry, well, I'm sorry, but even John Terry's prime and Walcott having 2 injured hamstrings, he's going to beat him by 10. So for me, I think a lot favours Arsenal here.
And Chrissy, you pretty much talked your book here. You're expecting Chelsea to score goals. I take the overs are your play here.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the scoreline figures involved in these recent games. Again, for these sides, there's 3s, there's 4s, there's 7s. There's goals everywhere you're looking at. I think we'll see loads of goals today. One of the key stats I meant to mention in the previous part was that Arsenal have taken just 1 point from a possible 12 against the big 3 this season. So this is my theory. There is a gulf between Arsenal and the top 3, and that'll be exposed on Sunday, I think.
Well, fascinating call there, boys. We're trying to help the punters out here, but we've got Flash going for Arsenal, Chris going for Chelsea and me going for the draw. So not much help for you guys there at home. But next big game on this tremendous Sunday is, of course, Spurs versus Manchester United. Now, can Spurs do United a favour here, City a favour, and do the business over the league leaders at the moment? You look at the odds here, it's tight, and you think you very rarely get the chance to back United at odds against any time, do you? 2-1 Spurs, 12-5 the draw, 13-10 for the away win and Manchester United. Now, Flash, I mean, this Spurs side, I think he's done a great job there, AVB. I think this is a guy, he hasn't made any signings, has he? And it goes to show you the respect that us bookmakers carry for Spurs at the moment, with just a 2-1 quote against the champions-elect, basically.
Yeah, I've gone for Tottenham in this game. And I very, very seldom go against Manchester United, but I think Tottenham match up brilliantly. Man United are going to have a pop, and the best counter-attacking side in the league, probably playing the best football in the league in Tottenham. They've got obviously Gareth Bale on one side, Lennon on the other, and if you have a look at the two fullbacks, Evra's not been no great shakes this year. Who will play at right back? Will it be Raphael? We look at the centre halves. And you have Vidic or Ferdinand, Smalling or Evans. So for me, Tottenham are definitely going to trade shorter than 2-1 at some stage. Yeah, good call, Flash. I mean, it should be a fantastic game, Chris. Entertaining, goals. You can't really see these two teams producing a poor game, can you? But, I mean, United can afford to lose, can't they? They've got a big cushion. It's not the end of the world for them if they get beat. I mean, maybe that's why we see this price about them today. Yeah, perhaps, yeah. I just think Alex Ferguson would never let that sort of sloppy psychology to kick in. I just think Spurs have got an issue with Man United. I know they beat them back in September, but they've got terrible. The last time they beat them was in 2001 at White Hart Lane. They've got an issue against the top six generally. I think just one win against the top six in the last 12 games. Just seem to struggle when the going gets tough. Spurs go missing. I think that we saw that towards the end of the campaign in recent seasons where they failed to finish in the top four. I think Manchester United will not lose this game. I think the value probably lies with the 12-5 on the draw. I've got a lot of respect for Villas-Boas, and I'd like to see Spurs win. I just don't think psychologically. I think they'll fall short, and I think 12-5, the draw is the pick here. Remember, this is a side that actually went to Old Trafford and won and were 2-0 up inside 7 or 8 minutes. So for me, I think Tottenham have got a real good feel-good factor against these, and they don't hold any fears. And they've got that one thing that United do fear, they've got pace throughout the side, so this isn't a side to write off at all, is it, in Spurs? Let's look at the overs and unders here, boys, and again, you know, historically the game produces loads of goals. I remember when I was first involved in the betting industry when the Spurs were 3-0 up at half-time. I laid a bet, actually, in that game. When they were, no, you won't believe this bet. They were 3-0 up at half-time. I laid 8-1 about Manchester United. I think it should have been 50-1. And they ended up winning. So that goes to show you the history of this game. You can never write United off even when they're 3 down, but Flash, I would have thought if they go 3-0 up here, Spurs, they won't be messing it up again. But over 2.5 is an obvious call here, surely. I mean, United just don't have clean sheets, or you can't keep them out, can you? So, no, I mean, surely there'll be goals in this one. Yeah, I'd go like Tottenham 2-1 or maybe even 3-1. So, I mean, I would even have a little go at the over 3.5s. I mean, that's 33-20. I definitely think it'll be over 2.5. I just think it'll be an unbelievable football match. Yeah, should be a great game, Chris. In-play betting will be through the roof in this one. I think it'll be fantastic. It'll be rock and roll. It'll be amazing. It'll be so exciting on Sunday. I can't wait for it. And you have to agree with Flash. You have to go with the overs here. Over 3.5. So much attacking prowess on display. Over 3.5 for me. Couldn't agree more there, Chris, as well. So let's now take the Monday night game on board. And of course, it's got a different flavour to it now with the departure of Nigel Adkins, as Flash mentioned earlier on in the show there. Saints obviously hosting Everton. A team who draw a lot of games here, guys, and the stats do point to the draw in this game. Let's look at the odds here. 13-5 Southampton, the draw 5-2, and we have to point out, don't we, global gamble at the moment on Everton just in the last few hours with the departure of Nigel Adkins, and people expecting David Moyes' men here to do the business at your place, Flash. Yeah, evens, nap, absolute nap. Let me tell you now, there'll be a protest prior to the game. The fans will be singing. It's going to be a little bit like Chelsea in the 16th minute with Di Matteo. The fans will be singing one Nigel Adkins. The manager does not speak English, so Harry's going to get that. And he's dealing with a bunch of players that have never played in the Premiership before. And the chemistry that the manager and players had is like a family. The Southampton will not put a performance in on Monday, not on purpose. I just feel it's almost going to be like there's been a death in the family. Chris, let's look at the overs and unders in this game, because again, I mean, Flash has summed up there. I mean, it's disappointing, isn't it, to see the departure of Adkins, but I mean, the big money on Everton this game. Is that the way you see it again? I mean, Everton just do not keep clean sheets. I think it's 17 games since they kept a clean sheet, and both teams scoring their games. Exactly. Stats here really do point to 1-1. I looked it up earlier on, but how do you call this one, mate? I'd go under 2.5 here. I think 8 of the last 10 Southampton games have gone under 2.5. They've really tightened things up defensively. So for me, I'd be under 2.5. On the game generally, I just couldn't back Everton even money. It's gone too far. All the people that I respect who like Spanish football, said Logie and Balaga, Mina Rizuki, all reckon this is a really good appointment. It's a good manager, and you know,
I just don't see the world crumbling apart. I appreciate that Flash knows much more about me than Southampton.
Oh no, not in the long term.
Yeah.
But just because it's on Monday and it's been done on the
Can't
Friday
back
afternoon.
Everton.
Let's take a different flavour of this now. Obviously, with the carnage going on there at St Mary's, let's have a look now at the relegation market. It's come back to the fore now, hasn't it, boys? And we can see there Reading falls on to go down. QPR 8-13, showing signs of a revival. Villa evens, and all of a sudden, right back on the radar now, Southampton. And they have to be, don't they, Flash, at 9-5?
At 9-5, let me tell you now that if we sit here, fast forward 28 days, they play Everton, Man City, Manchester United and Liverpool. If they get no points out of the next 12, they will be the ones that are 4-6. So anyone that fancies Southampton to go down, 9-5 now, don't say you weren't warned.
OK, let's pool our thoughts here now. Which 3 teams are we going for to go down? I'll give you my 3 after I've listened to you 2. So let's Chris, what do you think? Who are the 3 going down out of that mob?
Oh, I keep changing my mind all the time. I think Reading will go down. I just think they've got enough. I think Southampton will go down now, and I think Wigan will go down. I'd love QPR to go down. But,
pretty original stuff, actually. Flash, your own thoughts?
Well, obviously, I'm going to have to stay away from the Southampton and just I'll give you 2. I'll give you Reading and Villa.
Reading and Villa with QPR, yeah?
No, not with QPR. I just can't pick the third one because I think that it could well be Southampton, but I don't want to be saying that.
There's the shrewdness of Flash coming through again then. I'll actually go with those bottom 3. I think that's the obvious call. I think that Villa at the moment are looking pretty dismal, aren't they? That's it for part 3 here of the Punter. We'll be back with part 4, looking at some of the NFL action, Aussie Open and some snooker as well. But stay with us here on the Punter. Thanks for joining us back here at the Punter, the best show you'll find anywhere dedicated to the wonderful world of sports betting. I'm Russ Wiseman and I'm joined by the resident pundits here, the fantastic Flash Gordon Watson and the wonderful Chris Graham. So boys, we spoke at the back end of the last part of the show about relegation, but let's have a quick look at the sack race here now, because clearly this took us by surprise, didn't it, really, the departure of Nigel Adkins. And looking at this market now, I'm surprised personally that Paul Lambert doesn't top it, but I guess, Flash, there's a general sentiment out there that maybe Martin Jol's in jeopardy at the moment at Fulham.
Yeah, he is, and he's desperate because they're not winning too many games at the Cottage. As we say, we don't oppose him at home, we don't like him away. I mean, the big one there, you've got to be looking at Alan Pardew at 16-1, surely. They are in a relegation battle, whether you like it or not. They're below Southampton in the league. They haven't got a good squad, a bit of a fit squad. So for me, the value is all about Pardew. Paul Lambert, he'll be fine. I mean, he's trying to juggle with his hands tied behind his back. So, I mean, you've got to be fair to him. But for me, Pardew at 16s, that's massive.
I mean, when Flash makes a very good point there, Chris, about Pardew being in danger. But this 8-year contract of his, doesn't that give you a little bit of a worry in terms of him potentially going? I'm
sure there's a clause where Mike actually get away from no pay him 7.5 years compensation, definitely. But two for me here, big prices. I think the top 2 in the market are safe. I think Brian McDermott. We saw what's happened today with a newly promoted club. An owner with itchy feet. You can see that it's the same in Reading, the Russian owner there. I think 16-1 is a decent shout. I wouldn't be too surprised if he didn't last the season. And one at an absolutely massive price is Martin O'Neill. I think he's about 66-1 at the moment. I love the guy to bits, but he's struggled this season, let's be honest. And he was as short as odds on just 4 weeks ago, so now he's 66-1. That's a bit of a drift for me. If they lose 3 or 4 games in a row, which they've already done this season, he'll be back into 6-4 again. So I think 66-1 Martin O'Neill, that's just too big.
Fair enough. And one manager I'll throw at you here, Flash, Roberto Mancini. Worried or not? I mean, obviously the fact that Pep Guardiola's gone to Bayern Munich probably eases a little bit of pressure on him, but is it potential maybe that Jose Mourinho could depart Real Madrid and take the hot seat up at Man City?
At the end of the season, yeah, I mean, this sack race, so it's for the next one to be... so basically, we're going to see someone get sacked between now and the end of the season, because Mancini's only going to get sacked at the end of the season. So for me, I think he's safe, but only just. OK, so fascinating stuff there with the sack race. Keep an eye on that one. And as we've seen today, volatile to say the least. Let's now look ahead at the Australian Open. The men's and women's draws now coming to the nitty-gritty, isn't it, boys? And we're coming to the business end of this tournament. Men's
odds haven't really changed enormously. Novak, obviously the favourite, 5 to 6. Murray 5 to 2. Federer 6 to 1, and then you've got this usual gap between the others. And let's be honest about it, guys. If Murray's going to reach the final, it's a pretty perilous route there, isn't it, Flash?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's a complete minefield. He's got a tiptoe, a better line like Tommy Steele. But I mean, look, Novak Djokovic, he's in the final. We'll see you there. Now let's try and find someone to get in there with him. And the way it works out, you'd think Andy Murray, for all things being equal, is going to play Federer in the semis. But Tsonga at 60 to 1 could well find himself in the semi-final, and I think that's where the value lies. I think Djokovic will win it. I think Djokovic will be in the final, but you've got to try and find someone in there. So for me, I've got to go with Tsonga.
Flash makes a good point about Tsonga. However, I suppose the issue is, Chris, I mean, it's a great trading position, but is he really going to get the job done at the end? I tend to agree with Flash. You'd probably be able to get out of that bet if you want to. But anyone else on that list you can maybe make a bit of know? A couple of the pundits put Del Potro up as maybe breaking through, but you've got to do something special to beat these big guys.
He's not really kicked on since his injury, Del Potro, has he? Good call on Tsonga. Let's not forget he got to the final here 5 years ago, back in 2008, losing to Rafael Nadal, that particular campaign. If I was to make a case for somebody at a decent price, maybe Thomas Berdych at 66 to 1. I think he's in the top 6 best players. I think you've got the big 4 there, and I think you've got Ferrer and fifth, and I think Berdych for me is 6. US Open semi-finalist last season, got to the quarter-finals here last year. I think at a price, Thomas Berdych should be the value pick for me, but I like Flash's Tsonga shout as well.
The thing is with Tsonga, he's matured and he's got a little bit more patient, and I think this will be his come-out year. I really do. I think that he will he maybe get one of the 4.
And I think it gives you an idea of the dominance of Djokovic here, doesn't it? When you see that he's playing against Stan Wawrinka. He had a great win against Querrey this morning, Sam Querrey, and he's 18 to 1 to win that game, Wawrinka. So we're talking about a dominant player here, 5 to 6, interesting enough. Let's look at the odds here for the women's as well. We've seen a little bit of a mover in this market, haven't we? Because Serena's been around about tips on even money all the way through, deservedly so. Greatest champion probably ever to play in the women's game. Azarenka was about a 7 to 2 shot. Dominic Woolen, the guy we know quite well, is a good tennis judge. He quite likes Azarenka. It's Sharapova who's done been making the move here, barely losing a game. Dismissed the great champion in Venus Williams today as well, Flash. And I mean, maybe is it just a chance that Sharapova's getting her game together here to mount a challenge against Serena?
Yeah, I mean, I would take the 2nd and 3rd on the list against the rest. To be honest, I mean, I always think that you've got to take Serena on because she can get too comfortable in games. She takes her foot off the gas, and then she sort of has a little mini panic up. But for me, Sharapova and Azarenka against the field would definitely be the way I'd go.
And Chris, we should mention as well Laura Robson. I mean, an absolutely spectacular performance there to beat Petra Kvitova, a Wimbledon champion, for goodness sake. She had plenty of chances to toss that game in, didn't she? But she fought all the way from and the in-running action on that was through the roof. So I mean, I know she's 150 to 1, but anyone on that list as well? I mean, as we see Rory McIlroy's girlfriend there, 66 to 1. She used to have a good chance years ago, but not anymore.
She's gone rubbish since she went with Rory, hasn't she? I wouldn't touch her. Great, Laura Robson, great story, and she'll be a lot short on that in the forthcoming years, that's for sure. But British women's tennis, and Britain's going through a gold period at the moment with her and Heather Watson doing wonderful things. Laura Robson, 150 to 1 there. I'll put in Lee Na there at 22 to 1. She got to the final a couple of years ago. Kim Clijsters beat her. She started this year off quite well. 3 comfortable wins so far in the competition. Into the 4th round. I think 22 to 1 is quite a generous price. Lee Na.
Not a bad shout, boys. But I mean, I'll just throw one bet at you here. The professional double that everybody seems to do, the Djokovic Serena. Is that going to cop this year, or is that a losing bet this time around?
I think half of it will cop. I think the men's side will cop.
Chris,
Andy Murray will win.
Okay, that's good for me too as a bookmaker. Quite like that as well. So that's the Aussie Open tennis wrapped up. Obviously, plenty of action to go there in the next week. But finally, we'll end the show, boys, here with a look at the championship games in the NFL. It's been a fantastic season. I know Flash is a big fan of this, and we've got 2 spectacular games on Sunday night here. Let's look at the first one here, Flash. The NFC Championship game in Atlanta, and it gives you an idea here of what the odds makers think of this San Francisco team. -4 points to go into Atlanta. Very rare in a championship game that you'll see the outside, the away team as the favourite. But as I said, the odds makers massively respect Harbaugh's team here.
Well, NFC ranked number 1 and number 2, and the big thing we've got here is Colin Kaepernick, who's the quarterback for the 49ers. And with the 49ers, they've got a great defence, but when you match up against Atlanta, who are, to be fair, they've kept it going, and only just. I don't think they'll be able to contain him in the pocket. He's one of them that can rush. He can throw the ball. So for me, I think that San Francisco will see these off for -4.
And Atlanta took place in one of the great games last week, didn't they? I mean, they had every reason to lose that game with Seattle fought back. But San Francisco, I guess you could say, the fact that they dismissed Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, one of the great quarterbacks of this era, it gives you an idea that this is a mentally tough team. And away from home, it's probably not enough for them to get beaten. It's just at this stage.
No, I mean, the only thing you could say that is obviously Atlanta, they play in a dome, and the 49ers don't. So I would say there's that. But with the Falcons, they've had an easier schedule for me, and they've got their... they haven't had it as hard as the 49ers, and the 49ers are class and the up-and-coming team. And at the start of the year, I'd expect the 49ers to be in the final. And
Chris, Sporting Bet 48.5 is the over and under in this game. We saw an absolute glut of points last week, didn't we? After the previous week being no points at all. 48.5, any kind of interest in that kind of points line?
I might as well be honest with the viewership here. I don't follow American sports. I struggle with American sports. I struggle with America generally as an entity, to be quite honest. So I wouldn't patronise the viewers here by giving a view. But it's interesting to see American football getting bigger and bigger from a betting point of view. That's exciting for the industry. Definitely.
I mean, how could you go under? How could you go under 48 when the games that we've seen this year? We've seen more touchdowns. The ball gets stripped and taken away more times. I mean, I think you're looking at least 50-odd points here.
Well, it was a wild weekend, wasn't it, last weekend? And let's look at the AFC Championship game now, because New England, obviously, deservedly favourites. They seem to have had an easy path here, Flash. It's very difficult for me to speak to you about this because you're so biased. Chris, you might need to have an opinion on American sports with this, Flash. But, Flash, you're a big Patriots fan. It looks as though the draws just opened up beautifully for them, because the Ravens, they've really been on the edge 3 or 4 times this season. Still there now in Ray Lewis's, the great Ray Lewis's final season. +8 the market. Very rare again you see more than a touchdown in a championship game. But it's difficult to look past New England, isn't it?
They've got so many weapons, and obviously I'm going to take about 3 weeks now to describe them all to you. Tom Brady is at the helm. He's won more playoff games than anybody in the history of the game. Montana, Elway, Marino. Tom Brady is the Luke Skywalker. So for me, I think the Patriots definitely win. But the thing that punters have got to remember here is the Patriots could be 2 scores up going into like the last 2 minutes, and they will let them dance down the field and take the 7, and then all of a sudden the margin will come from 14 down to 7, and then obviously
and that is an interesting quick look at the outrights here. Flash, I'm not even going to ask you what you fancy because we know you've taken up the evens, but Chris, I think San Francisco at 2-1 are an interesting call.
The Patriots are the dominating team of the last 15 years, haven't they?
Well, yeah, they've lost 3 of the last 5 visits they've had there against.
So a good playoff.
But they're normal because they do have it quite easy in their division to get through. You know, they've only got to play Buffalo, Jets, and Miami, but when you get there, you wouldn't want to go against Belichick. But if you do, then I think that San Francisco, I think it'd be New England and 49ers.
And in fairness to you, Flash, you have been very good on the NFL this year, I have to say. Before we go, boys, and well, thanks very much as well, let's have a look at our best bets at the weekend. I mean, I'm going to leave mine to the last, but Flash, any thoughts of your own for this weekend?
I think 2-1 at home, Tottenham. I think that's really good.
OK, that's a good shout for you there. Chris, any thoughts?
I'll be equally bold and say Chelsea to beat Arsenal. Even money.
Oh, that's not a bad shout either.
That's a really bad shout.
The bad news for both of you boys is that neither of those teams are going to win, but never mind. And my own personal pick will be West Brom to beat Villa. Just Flash, one last point. I think you're probably your best bet of all, though. You think that New England at even money genuinely is a decent bargain, don't you?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, yeah, definitely even money. Well, I mean, they have been as big as 6s throughout the season, but now you're down to the last 4 after the last 2 on Sunday night. I expect New England. They'll be odds on 2-5 in the final.
Okay, well, it's Spurs for Flash, it's Chelsea for Chris, it's West Brom for me. Flash is also on New England, but thanks very much for joining us here at the Punter. We'll see you again very soon. My regards to both Flash and to Chris today, and I'll see you soon here on the Punter.